Hey guys, it's Chris Anastasio, Cashflow Positive Marketing. I just want to hop on a quick video here, talk to you guys about something I saw come through my email the other day. It got me thinking a little bit, probably a dilemma that a lot of people are facing today. It's sort of an interesting rock and a hard place that we've sort of found ourselves in. If you're anywhere in the digital space, if you're doing any kind of digital product, marketing, advertising, drop shipping, e-commerce, whatever the case may be, you got this kind of dilemma probably on your hands. And again, it was sparked by something I saw in my email from a company called Printful. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it before. It's a print-on-demand service, company. Basically, you upload designs to apparel or other kinds of merchandise on their app or their website or via integration like Shopify, and so they have that design or that logo on hand. When you get an order in your store or on your Instagram or wherever, you communicate the order to them, they print the shirt, and they ship it out for you. So it's basically like, to talk about Printful for a second, it's basically a drop shipper for apparel, okay, and some other miscellaneous merchandise. They do like coffee mugs and iPhone cases and backpacks and things like that. So there's other stuff in there, but it's mostly for things like T-shirts and sweats and hoodies and jackets and things of that nature. So anyway, so Printful, I've done some experimentation with them. I've been working with some Printful concepts so far. I haven't full-fledged implemented them as an e-commerce solution, but I've got some experience with them. So they send me an email and they're like, hey, we just want to let you guys know that, ironically, in this time where people are kind of cooped up at home and they're on their digital devices all day long, and e-commerce sales are exploding or certainly rising significantly. We know you as an e-commerce professional want to take advantage of that, and we want you to take advantage of that. But the problem we're having at Printful is because of social distancing and quarantine and lockdowns and safety guidelines, we are short-staffed and we cannot crank out designs, orders, shipping, etc., as quickly as we normally could. So they went on to talk about that a little bit. It was a very, conciliatory kind of, messaging. It was basically on the side of, hey, we're real sorry about this, and it's totally understandable. I mean, it's super appreciated. I mean, I think everybody understands. I mean, I don't think anybody's really mad at Printful, but they're getting ahead of it and they're getting their message out there that this is why their operations are impacted. And they went on to talk about, they've actually ramped up operations in Europe because things are a little more stable there for them. I think they have two major hubs. I forget where their hub is in the United States. It's a fairly large city, if I remember correctly, but I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. However, they have one in I think it's Riga, Latvia. I'm not 100% sure on that either, but I'm more certain about that than I am on the U.S. side. So they were basically saying, like, we've actually, stepped up our European operation and are doing a little better over there than we are in the United States, but we're behind in the U.S. We're short-staffed and we're trying to deal with that and trying to work around that for completing your orders and stuff like that. So I think, it made me think, like, okay, I obviously can't depend on their shipping time frames anymore. So I have to think differently about how I would do a print-on-demand kind of situation. But at the same time, this is the perfect time to be trying to move products to people who are in a position to buy. Of course, there are a lot of people out there who are, they're not in a position to buy, disposable income type items like that. I mean, they're fully engaged buying, food and supplies and things like that. So to be respectful of that, there's plenty of people who, wish they could be buying disposable items and so forth. So, don't want to be too flippant about that. But for people who have disposable income, who, let's say, still have their jobs, they're working from home and things haven't been too disrupted for them, this is the perfect time to sell stuff to them. They're on their devices all day long. I mean, from morning till night, most likely. People barely put it down when they're going to work. I mean, now they're at home essentially all day, staring at the thing. So there's an opportunity for sales to be had, and yet here you have an entity like Printful saying we can't meet that demand as well as we would like to, or certainly as well as we would in normal times. So it's really kind of an interesting dilemma. I think it's not just Printful that's running into this issue. I'm sure people who are doing other kinds of drop shipping or selling other kinds of, especially physical products. I mean, certainly if you're selling a digital, downloadable product, there shouldn't really be any impact to that. You may have issues with like help desk support or things of that nature, but you can still move your product fairly frictionless, even in this environment. But if you're doing physical products and either you've got to mail them out or somebody's got to do them for you, you're probably facing this issue. So I think, I said to myself, well, if I'm going to keep doing this or keep pushing this, this kind of e-commerce effort, if I were to do that, how would I handle this? How would I advertise the product, but know in the back of my mind that it was going to take a lot longer to get there? And I think the answer is fairly simple and fairly straightforward. It's announcing it right up front on your product page. I mean, you literally splash it right there in front of people's faces, and you say, look, normally this item would get to you in 3 to 5 business days or 5 to 7 business days, whatever it is. But because of coronavirus and the resultant environment, we can't get this to you any sooner than, and you give the number. And I think Printful might have given an estimate. I can't remember if they actually tried to estimate or not. If you can give an estimate, I would give it. I'd say, hey, we can't get this to you any sooner than 2 weeks. Maybe even fudge that a little bit to the high side, so you under promise and you over deliver. But the point is, you put the estimate right there for people to see and digest before they hit the buy button. You do not attempt to obfuscate it or downplay it or anything like that. And you just say, it's an extraordinary circumstance. I think most people understand, if they want the product and they understand the environment, they'll wait longer for it. They know that it's not supposed to come in 3 days. They understand that it's not going to come in lightning fast, conditions. Okay. Obviously, we hope that's happening for things that, people on the front lines of this situation are needing. Protective gear, test kits, all those types of things hopefully are moving really, really fast through the shipping infrastructure that's out there. But, if you want a t-shirt, I think as a customer, you understand and you're willing to wait 2 or 3 weeks or, whatever it is, whatever the number ends up being in terms of how long you have to wait. I think you're willing to do it because, you're in the same boat as everybody else. I think that's really the theme here is there's a common denominator. This isn't you and your store is taking 3 weeks to ship items, but everybody else is shipping in 3 days. I mean, if they don't like your 3-week policy, whatever the number is, I'm just throwing a number out there. If they don't like your 3-week policy, well, the next website they go to is probably the exact same amount of time or something very similar, something extremely similar to that. So because everybody's in the same boat and because there's a common denominator, I would not even think twice about running from, I would not think twice about embracing the length of time it's going to take. I would just frame it positively. I don't think any e-commerce drop shipper or other physical product seller wants their product to move faster than protective gear or testing kits or anything like that. So you just kind of say, look, we are taking a lot longer than normal, and we are happy to report that because, we understand that there's more important things being shipped. So I'd be very, very upfront about it. I'd be very respectful of it, the situation, and I would be very, I'd frame it very positively. I wouldn't even attempt to put any kind of, any kind of negative slant on it. So anyway, just really curious how you guys have handled that. If anybody has instituted a policy like that, or come up with the right messaging that they feel has been really effective, it'd be really cool if you shared that. I'd be interested in it. I think most people could benefit from seeing something like that. If they're struggling with their own messaging, but it just boils down to, it's a very sensitive time. I think people are doing online shopping as maybe a little bit of an escape. Again, they know it's not going to come tomorrow, so they're a lot more understanding about it. And when the item does arrive, they're very thankful that it arrived. They're very, they're going to be very pleased that they got their item that they've been looking forward to. I don't see this as anything that has to be treated in a negative light. I think it can really be turned into a positive. So, personally speaking, as far as Printful goes, I don't see any issue with their circumstances whatsoever. I just think it's really positive of them to get the email out to their subscribers, their followers, whatever you want to call the people who use them, and get the message out to them and say, hey, this is where we stand. And I think that transparency is the key. And that transparency is what really sets them, not necessarily sets them apart, because I think a lot of people are doing it, but it kind of sets the tone for how they deal with situations like this. And I think they gain some points from it. I think you kind of look at a company that does that and, wants to take a responsible role, in the matter. And, it really kind of elevates them in that regard. I think it's a huge positive. I was actually very encouraged when I saw Printful's email, and it just helped me kind of frame my approach and my strategy, how I would go about, sort of addressing something like that on my product page or on my website. So, big thanks to the Printful guys for that, setting that example. So, and the many other companies that are doing the same thing. So anyway, just going to sign off here, guys. Hope you got some value out of this. Like I said, we'd really be interested in how people are handling longer ship times, more uncertainty about ship times and arrivals and things like that. Definitely kind of an interesting challenge that anybody in the digital commerce space is facing right now. So, all right, guys, you have a good night.